Thank you, Shubhra, very much. This will be a panel. You can't talk about a women's collective and just have two people speaking. Uh, so it's such a great honor to be chairing this session on SEWA, which is, as you know, the Self-Employed Women's Association. And we can absolutely say that is the single most important women's organization in the country. It's also the largest national trade union center in India, with women workers in the informal economy. So all these factors matter. It's a trade union, it's women workers, it's the informal economy. It was founded by the legendary Ela Bhatt in 1972. It today has 3.2 million members. These are poor women workers, although it's headquartered in Ahmedabad, but its work spreads across 18 states today. Now, many of you will know that 90% of India's female labor force is in the informal sector. Now, these workers typically lack work security, income security, and social security. And according to the National Sample Survey of 2015, 20% of all enterprises in India are owned by women, but these are very small enterprises. Only 2.7% employ 3 people or more, and 78% are home-based. So this carries many challenges of production, sale, and collectivization. Now, SEWA, what it's done is it's transformed the lives of millions of such women. It has organized a sector that people thought was unorganizable. It has unionized workers that no one imagined could be unionized. And as you know, normally we think of trade unions, we think of the formal sector. So unionizing the informal sector was completely path-breaking. It was path-breaking both in its imagination and it was path-breaking in its practice. Now, SEWA has brought to the women who are members social protection, which we normally associate with the formal sector, secure livelihoods, health insurance, financial inclusion, and most importantly, social identity. It does skill development, providing with entrepreneurial support, and this is a core strategy. Its core strategy is, in fact, doing this not as individual entrepreneurs, but actually forming unions, forming collectives and cooperatives. Now, in addition, Seva Bharat, which some of you would know, was set up in 1984, and it was to advance SEWA's development work. It's a federation of diverse SEWA institutions, and it brings together SEWA trusts and sister organizations across states. And most importantly, of course, SEWA is constantly innovative, and among its most recent and most important, I don't know about most important, but certainly absolutely key programs is the National Climate Change Campaign for clean skies, for natural farming, for green villages, for climate insurance. Now, my own association with SEWA goes back a very long way during Ela Bhatt's time in the 1980s. So Ela Ben often invited researchers and policymakers, and she brought them together to discuss new ideas. And, I was always struck by the enormous openness to new ideas and the enormous amount of warmth with which we were all greeted. And we had open discussions. It was possible to disagree, and the ideas were always taken seriously. Most importantly and unusually, SEWA has a very vibrant research wing. It does projects, it does evaluations of its own work, and so on. So I've continued to interact with SEWA, especially Renana Ben, who is currently heading SEWA Bharat, which, as I said, is a federation. And I've had the privilege of sharing with SEWA women. I'm often called to share some of my work, especially my work on land and assets. And it's always helpful. I did Sanskrit in school, so it's always helpful that you speak more than one language. I don't speak Gujarati, but certainly Hindi. So I just want to end with this, and then I'll introduce Rima Ben. Over 52 years, SEWA's strategy of bringing women into unions and collectives, and here I'd like to cite from its annual report, has grown like a large banyan tree, with each branch representing self-sustaining units which have joined the mainstream economy, led by self-employed women workers themselves. And I'll just remind you the difference between a banyan tree and a eucalyptus tree. A eucalyptus tree sucks up all the water and nothing grows beneath it. A banyan tree nurtures and extends its branches and nurtures. So I think that's a very important metaphor. रीना बहन के बारे में क्या बोलें? It's a great honor to introduce Reema Nanavati. She's current director of SEWA. And she took over the reins of SEWA's founder, as I said, the legendary Ila Bhatt, Ila Bhen. But prior to that, she's already worked, prior to this appointment, for almost 40 years in SEWA. She joined SEWA's rural wing in 1985. I didn't even know this. And then I was exploring what to say about her. And in 1999, she was elected SEWA's general secretary. Like Ila Bhen, she comes from a labor activist background. Her paternal grandfather was a well-known labor lawyer who worked for the Textile Labor Association, Mazdoor Mahajan Sangh, which was founded by Mahatma Gandhi. Her maternal grandfather was also a labor leader and a Gandhian. How unusual is that? So Reena ji has an MA in microbiology from Gujarat University. She appeared and successfully for the IAS, joined it for 1 year and decided, nah, this is not for me. And she took up what is a true vocation, which was full-time social service. Now, her work really has been inspirational and diverse because she joined the SEWA's rural wing and she developed the regional rural water supply scheme, which began as a project and then expanded into women water and work campaign, which involved, guess how many? 40,000 women. Under her leadership, SEWA also started self-help groups and the retail distribution network, RUDI, which enables goods produced by SEWA sisters to reach something like 40,000 households. And we'll hear more about that today. In 2001, she launched the Jivika project with the Government of India and IFAD to bring relief to Gujarat's earthquake victims. So what they did was facilitate livelihoods of some 60,000 rural women affected by the earthquake. And a year later, she started Shanta, a relief program to aid some 40,000 members affected by the 2002 Gujarat riots, who were the victims. What is this 40,000 magic figure which keeps appearing? It's not 100 or 200, it's in the thousands. Also, under her leadership, SEWA's work has continued to grow, and it's now, as I said, in 18 states. She oversees several thousand self-help groups, 160 cooperatives, and 15 economic federations. So this work, the primary focus is economic empowerment of building women's own enterprises, to connect them to supply chains, and to introduce ICT-based tools, which are modern, as well as facilitate green energy livelihoods. Now, she works not just on India, she also has worked on South Asia, especially in war-torn regions of Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, and Bhutan. So she led the rehabilitation program of war-affected widows in Sri Lanka, providing more than 6,000 women's vocational training. She's also worked in Afghanistan on different livelihood skills to help them, and she's helped them then form their own association. So the list can go on. And then she has an important international footprint. She's a member of the Advisory Council on Gender of the World Bank. She's a member of ILO's Global Commission on Future of Work, representing informal sector workers and women workers. She's a member of the UN High-Level Dialogue's Technical Working Group on Energy Action, and she was a gender lead of the working group of the UN Food System Summit in 2021. And at the summit's official opening ceremony, she was invited as a workers' representative to speak along with the UN Secretary General. And then there's a whole bunch of awards. She has multiple honors, of course. A Padam Shri, the Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay Award, the Sankalp Nabad Award, the Jacques Diouf Award on Global Food Security, and most recently, Agricultural Leadership Award. So this is just a snapshot of her and also of SEWA, if you like. And I hope she will share some of the highlights the achievements and challenges of SEWA, which I will remind everybody is the single largest union of informal sector women workers. And we will also hear, after her presentation, the voices of some of the women entrepreneurs themselves. So, Rimaji, over to you.
Namaste. Beena Ben gave a very elaborate introduction, but I'm just an organizer and a worker at SEWA. And that is what gives immense joy and satisfaction to see that when women come together to address their own issues and bring about solutions. But I'm extremely grateful to India International Center for including SEWA in this festival as well. And that shows that India International Center is also inclusive, that you are bringing the voices of the informal sector, women workers, in your festival as well. So thank you so much. And it is extremely encouraging and reassuring to see so many of SEWA's I don't know how do I call them, but guide people who have been guiding us, supporting us, we are friends. We call upon them anytime we are in a dilemma. So it's very, very heartening to see all of you here today, this morning. And it gives us so much of reassurance as well. And thank you, Beena Ben, as well, for taking the time out. She had to do a long research herself on SEWA to keep herself fully updated as well. So, as many of you here will know, we were founded way back in 1972 by our founder Ela Bhatt. And the vision of SEWA that you all have in front of you, that which we are working, and we will strive to continue working for another decades to come, is that millions of workers in our independent India are yet to enjoy Purna Swaraj, which means full freedom. Freedom is enjoying self-reliance, both economic and mental, in thinking and in decision making. And in our experience, this is not possible unless and until every woman and her household has full employment. Full employment by us means that every household enjoys basic food security, has access to clean water, clothing, and shelter. They should be able to afford this from their own earnings, not that they need to be subsidized and, they have to really struggle to access it. They should also obtain social security, which includes healthcare, childcare, insurance, and pension for the members. SEWA will continue to work to assist her members till they achieve full employment, and this is going to be our focus. This has been and it will be our main focus. SEWA members will work together to obtain full employment by organizing and through non-violent struggle and constructive action. As Ela Ben always told us, that hum ladenge bhi, par hum rachenge bhi. Oh, namaste, Kavita ji, I didn't see you. SEWA's core values are and will continue to be integrity, community harmony, social justice, and very important these days is simplicity. SEWA's strategy, therefore, is to organize women workers. As Beena ji said, we are a central trade union and collectives or cooperatives for self-reliance of our members. Through organizing, the women workers will have voice and her work will be more visible. Their contribution to the nation's economy will be valued. Even today, we still have to struggle for voice and visibility of our members' work. Full freedom will be achieved when women workers lead their families and communities. So this is the vision of SEWA with which we work. And also, as Ela Ben always taught us, that poverty is also a form of violence with the consent of the society. And so at SEWA, we come together as poor, as women, and as workers, no matter what caste, community, or religion we belong to. We come together to build our collective strength in our fight against poverty. We are not here to fight any state or any contractor or an employer. But how do we fight against poverty, earn a life of dignity and self respect? Our goals, therefore, as I mentioned in the vision, are full employment and self reliance. And our strategy to achieve these goals is through a joint action of union. As a union, we bring voice and visibility to our members' work and the issues. And through the collectives, as we all know that 93% of the workforce is in our countries in the informal sector, there's surplus of labor and less of employment opportunities. And therefore, to build their collective strength, to increase their bargaining power, how do you create alternative opportunities? And that is through the members' own collectives. Therefore, our members also do not remain just workers or producers, but they also become the owners and managers of their own trades, of their own enterprises. And therefore, working on an integrated approach with organizing, we work on asset creation. As we believe that asset creation is also one of the surest ways to fight poverty, be it in the form of small savings or having access to a license to continue doing their trade or having access to tools and equipments, capacity building, both their leadership capabilities but also their managerial capabilities, and access to basic support services. And this becomes an empowering process. There's no end to empowerment in the lives of our members, but it's a process, and she is able to build her self-confidence. She's able to speak up. She has her own identity as well. So as Beena Ben was explaining, today, having completed 5 decades of organizing, we're like a banyan tree. And the banyan tree, where the trunk is Seva, the parent, which is almost 53 years now, and the leaves are our 3.2 million members spread across almost 21 states today in India. And then the branches of the banyan tree are the different organizations, economic organizations, service-based organizations of our members, which complement and supplement each other. And I think it is this banyan tree which has helped us stand firm in this, era where no matter what side the wind blows, but we are able to withstand and keep the fabric of the union intact. We also work in the neighboring countries, and I have Ambassador Riaz Saab here, and he will be able to share more, but in countries of Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan as well. So as we started as a Gandhian movement, we were born out of the Textile Labor Association, but we are also a confluence of labor movement, women's movement, cooperative movement, and of recently now the climate, I won't say recent, almost a decade now, environment and climate movement, but all led by our members. What we have learned over these years is that it is the members who are spearheading and taking lead in these movements. And why I say this, because in 1974, when our second annual general meeting was happening, our members demanded for a bank of their own, because they were vendors, they were head loaders, and they needed access to small credit, which at that time nobody thought that these women were bankable. And so they said in the annual general meeting that why can't we have a bank of our own? And Elaben said, how can we have a bank? We are all poor. And one of our very first old cloth seller on the street, Chanda Ben, she stood up and she said, yeah, we are all poor, but we are so many. and therefore why can't we have a bank? And there the struggle to register a bank started. Of all poor, illiterate, informal sector women workers, the registrar said that this is going to be suicidal, that these are all illiterate women, poor women, and you want to have a bank of their own? And nobody could read or write, so how can a illiterate woman run a bank when she's not even able to read and write? And I could see if Vinod Raiji were there at that time as our ex-CAG, what would he have thought of. But overnight we taught our members to write, sign their names, and it took us not 1 or 2 months, but 2 years to register our bank. Today it's a full-fledged cooperative bank. We have over 250,000 shareholders, all women. And it was from the very beginning laid out that our bank will not take any outside share capital or investment. So it's slowly built all by our members. But we are very proud that, and Jyoti Ben is also one of our bank board members. Namaste, Atulji, please have a seat. From the cooperative bank, I think we set up the Friends of Women's World Banking so that we can have access to finance to women across the country, because, the issues of the informal sector workers, no matter wherever you are the same. And then in 1975, at the Women's Conference, it turned out that the issues were the same across the globe for the poor women, and that's where Elaben together with Michaela Walsh came together, who used to work at that time at the Wall Street, and set up the Women's World Banking, and which is now today in over 120 countries across the globe. So as Beenaji was mentioning about Seva Bharat, we started as Seva in 1972, but as Seva started growing, there was need that, everybody felt that there needs to be Seva in multiple states as well. And that's where we thought that how do we then go to different states across the country, that today we are in 21 states in India. And so Seva Bharat was organized where, how can Seva Bharat build the capacity, strengthen the Sevas in other states? Same way we now have Sabhas, which are the South Asian business associations of women workers in all these countries. And Riyaz Sab has been very instrumental in helping us take it across. And we have a bees network as well. Mandakini Ben also knows about it. So as the Seva movement continues to grow, we have set up alliances regionally and globally. They may be trade specific or they may be issue specific, and mainly where the informal sector women workers are struggling. So we have HomeNet, which organizes the home-based workers. We have StreetNet, which organizes the street vendors and hawkers across the country, but also internationally. We have Alliance of Waste Collectors, Domestic Workers, and I must say that 54% of our membership out of the 3.2 million members is of small farmers and agriculture workers. And therefore, we have a whole national agriculture campaign where we still are struggling that women as, how do you recognize women as farmers? And and how do you treat farm as an enterprise? We all know that farmers take the most risk and still continue farming. So we have a national farmers forum and a regional Asia farmers forum as well. But Elaben always told us that the stronger is the women's leadership. They themselves are able to present their issues, demand, and lead for political action. So we believe in political action, but refrain from electoral politics. And I think that is what we have been seeing in this last 5 decades, that, women are able to present their issues, demand for their rights, be it with the government, be it with the private sector, or other like-minded organizations also. But as Seva grows, we are becoming not old but young, as today almost 45% of our membership is of younger members, as you could see. And they keep me also young. And it is in the age group of 18 to 35 years. And therefore, the union has to be relevant to what the aspirations and needs of our younger members are. And so we build, the union has been building the enterprises, and we are so lucky to have so many here. Aditya Bhai is here, Anita Bhai, and Rajesh Bhai, who help us build and scale up our enterprises. And to name a few, we have farmers, Rudy is our agribusiness initiative, where we procure from the small farmers, grade, process, package, and it's a process. I always used to tell Aditya Bhai, but please be patient. Do not run away if you don't see results in 2 or 3 years. It takes 5 to 7 years. Please be patient. And I'm very glad, and I'm sure he must be glad, since he's here today, that our Rudy has really scaled up to 8 states today, started from Gujarat, and we work with 250,000 small farmers, procuring from them, and we are becoming more and more market oriented. I fear to say commercial, but we are becoming more and more market oriented and not just production led organization or an enterprise. Same way, Haryali, I have Atulji here, Deepa Ben here, which is our members' green enterprise. In 2008 or 9, we realized that, when there was this economic or financial recession worldwide, we as a country were not affected, as our financial institutions were not affected. But when we did a small study, we found that our members' meager income, they had to spend 45% in having access to cleaner and, not cleaner, but at least energy. And how can one not have to address that issue? And that's where we started with Haryali, the grassroots trading network, and some of our board members, esteemed members, are also here. Vinod Raiji, Anita Ben is here, Rajesh Bhai is here. And how do you bring access to energy closer to our members? As you know, non-access to energy also leads to stark poverty and indebtedness. And today we have green villages, we have our livelihood recovery and resilience fund, we have members switching over from diesel engines to solar pumps, women, you will hear today, having electric mobility access to that. We have our trade facilitation center, we all are here presenting. How do you bring the skills of our members to the market, be it in UP, the chikankari work, or the glass work, be it in Bengal, the weaving, or in Kashmir or in Ladakh, and how can I forget Gujarat, which has the most exquisite of embroidery and tie and dye. We strive to work on achieving what Elaben called as the second freedom, which is the economic freedom, freedom from hunger and starvation. I use second freedom because we used to call it Dusri Azadi, but now it is used in a very different context and connotation. So we are struggling to find an alternative for that, but it's the second freedom for our members, so that they can enjoy the real security and peace. And as I was saying, when we completed 50 years, we were all very busy thinking that how do we celebrate our 50 years of organizing. And Jyotiban will say more about it. But when we all went with the list to Elaben, she said, but 50 years have gone by. How will you change anything of those past? But one thing that we have learned is the whole solidarity, hum sab ek hai. So now the time for the next 50 years is to be one with the nature. And that's how you would fight and address the issue of climate. And that's where we are now working on our whole campaign of building cleaner skies, which we call as Swachha Akash. So how do we build resilience of our members, create more and more green livelihoods, bring more green skilling opportunities, and our 3.2 million members lead climate action so that we are all a resilient community and are able to enjoy the second freedom and bring more and more second freedom to the households. Thank you so much for patiently listening.
Thank you.
And thank you, Dina.
Thank you, Rima ji. Now you understand why I had to do research this morning, because no matter how well you know Seva, there's always new things happening which you only become aware of like this minute.
Sometimes I may also not know.
So thank you very much for such a comprehensive and enriched presentation. It just gives you a glimmer of what Seva is, because obviously to really understand it, you have to visit, you have to talk to the workers, you have to attend the meetings. So I will take the liberty of asking two short questions, and then we'll open it up for the workers, for Seva, other Seva Behane to speak. One is that Seva has different institutional forms. It started as a union, but you also have collectives, you have cooperatives. So what differentiates which form you choose? Is it as a result of the nature of the enterprise, or is it something that you've learned along the way? It has to do with the society laws in Gujarat, all of those. So that's the first question. And the second one is that you work across caste and religion. And how do you deal with potential, social differences which can always arise, after all, when you start, and in the end, you might end up with a very different outcome. It's something we can all learn from in terms of harmony. But if you could share your insights on those 2 points.
Thank you so much. And I think what we always tell at Seva is that the thread is our members, which keep us binding together, and the beads are our different organizations. And it's our members which become the common thread that keeps the banyan tree together. And therefore, the forms of organizations would vary from the nature of the trade or the enterprise that it is. We always first used to believe in cooperatives because that's, mutual, democratic. But then we also realized that if you really want to go to scale, cooperatives have its own constraints, regulatory aspects, and that's where we started exploring different forms of organizing. So, but we always want that there are certain principles that we believe in, that they have to be owned by the members themselves, so they are the shareholders. They have to be democratic, so that every member feels that she is able to contribute and, have a leadership role in the organization. And it has to, focus on what are the real needs or issues of the members. So it's based on that we identify whether it would be a Section 8 non-profit company or a for-profit company or a cooperative or just a federation of self-help groups. So it varies from, activity to activity, trade to trade, and also sometimes in which state you are. So if you are in a state like Ladakh or in a state like Kashmir, or you are in a country like Afghanistan, then you look at what is most conducive in the given socio-political situation. So that's how we form. I hope I have answered it well.
Absolutely.
And to your question on how do we deal with social differences, I think at Seva we focus a lot on members' education, which is on the values of the organization. And my sister Jyotiban would say more on that. but there's a strong emphasis on the values that we follow, and I think our largest investment goes in members' education. So for every member, it is very clear that these are the values that I will follow if I want to be a member of Seva. And that's why, yes, there are differences, there are caste and community related differences, but when we all come together, we have to put aside those differences and just focus on the issue that we have come together with. And poverty is such an issue, it is so complex that, if you start bringing these social differences, then you will never be able to address the issue of poverty. And therefore, I think it takes a while, but the members do realize that, I have to follow the values. We are here as women, as workers, and as poor. And we are here to address the issue of poverty. We also make it very clear to our members that we will have to be away from electoral politics, because very often they are, invited by political parties when there are local elections, and it is very natural, but then she ceases to be a member of Seva. So that has helped us maintain the fabric thus far, and I'm sure if members' education will continue, we would be able to. I have confidence that for the coming decades as well.
So there is the ambassador from Bangladesh who would like to say a few words. So may I invite you to do that?
Thank you. Possibly I come with two hats, obviously as Bangladeshi, but also in my former hat. And I have next to me my former boss, who was the SAARC Secretary General, because I think so we worked together in the venture, in the journey. When I first heard of Seva, that was when Elaben was a member of ISACPA, South Asian Independent Commission Poverty Alleviation. And I thought Seva was to serve, Seva. True, but that was my first thing. And then I came full circle. So 2008, when the decision came, because Rimaji was referring to the Seva with regional South Asian footprint. It was not easy. So I'll just reflect very quickly as to how it happened, possibly not with fullest satisfaction, but that's quite a valued experience. So 2008, I think 2005 came the momentous decision that SAARC would have a SAARC Development Fund. It was negotiated, statute, bylaws, and came 2009. First disbursement came for $13.5 million, entirely grant financed, which went to Seva. And then first I meet Rimaji, Ranalaji and all. Our conversation began. It was completely ground zero. I distinctly recall many times how we'll operationalize the economic window or social window, how to disburse and all that. That not only in terms of modalities, but that took us to, may I say, virgin grounds like Afghanistan. Quite an experience. Many times, a lot of things will come and we had to do. So I think it's not to bore you, but without saying much, I was just reflecting what to say. Possibly two or three things. One is that regional footprint. Sometimes under Chatham House, I can tell that many times people would come to me from capitals that this is an Indian NGO. It's coming and you are Bangladeshi, and how is it's going? But I'm sharing this to understand. So one was that how do we ensure an entity from X country, but then having regional footprint. So sense of sovereignty was very dominant in our mind, possibly still now. But then with that first courtesy, that first project, we kind of made a footprint. I'd look at you as Dr. Agrawal to really look at, because not much has been done in terms of really dissecting as to what happened, and then possibly this was a real first-hand experiment in regional cooperation on the ground. Other also, what that challenge was that to unpack regional identity. We take great pride in saying that South Asian identity, but possibly that project also taught a lot of things in terms of micro details of stitching a South Asian identity. Not a monolith, understandable reason, but then how? Because all these are to boil to what we define as a rubric called regional cooperation. So much before we go to regional cooperation, regionalism, the sense of regionalism, and then blending with regional identity, and then to reach what we quite often fancily say regional cooperation. That was all. One of the interesting points that came was, I think, Rimaji, you can correct me, was when we're going, Seva was going to countries, capitals to form Sabah, SABH, you can possibly chip in. And then I think it was very interesting to see that every country has a distinct character. And in some countries, it was to go under company law, if I'm not wrong. I think also questioning that we should go under Trust Act, if not. Bangladesh was also quite journey. I think Nepal was possibly the easiest one. Bhutan, I don't recollect. Sri Lanka also, but not easy. And then we left it. It was left to the country concerned when the chapters were organized that they would decide which would be the streams of work to be undertaken and what would be the nature of a legal framework, and then how the things will be, the Sabah chapters will be organized. That itself was quite an interesting journey. I would only leave with a couple of thoughts possibly to take the advantage of this. Because since I signed off SAARC, obviously conversation continued, acquaintances remained and all that, and now that I'm back to Delhi. But having seen other peers of Seva, like Kachi Awad in Pakistan, Sarvodaya in Sri Lanka, and Seva, one of the thoughts, and Rimaji, you remember my first conversation with you in Delhi this summer. I think I think of three intersections to really look at beyond today. One is there are new pressures coming on a continuous basis as you stand. Obviously, inequality is a big thing. So in that inequality, how would the women, climate change, and natural resource stress, water in particular, also soil. Soil is depleting heavily. I come from a wet part of South Asia, and when I go to the Kutch and other parts, I can see that. So that's one. Other is that everyone is saying that there's so much of opportunity, courtesy, technology and all that, learning, digitalization, health service delivery. But then inequality is so intense. How do we, and as I'm hearing both of you, question remains that it's not easy. It's increasingly getting difficult also to all the peer organizations. And possibly third is the tremendous, there's so much of profit corporatization, if not temptation on that. In between how the sort of an organization and also organization of the kind of Seva across South Asia, because I think because we saw up close in Bangladesh 70s, 80s and 90s, and then I think there's a deceleration in the whole journey. So I think it's not simply Seva and Seva to move, sustain in India and beyond, but also if that is not there concomitantly in other countries, I think the larger whole may not take the shape as it is the desirable one. So I'd like to leave that thought also here with you, possibly to take it beyond today, this hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Yes, please.
So, Riyaz Saab, thank you so much. And I think Shilkanji and Riyaz Saab are the two backbones of Sabhas. Had they not been there, I don't think any of the Sabhas would have been there today. I'm very glad that Sabha in Afghanistan is up and running as well. So, strong seeds. But from what you just said, every country, so the beauty of all the South Asian business associations of home-based workers, that's the long name of Sabha, but in all the different languages, it means a leher of fresh air. Whether it's in Urdu or in Nepali or in Afghani, that is Pashtun or, whatever. So we had a social organization registered in Nepal. We had a cooperative registered in Sri Lanka, Sabah. We had a not-for-profit registered in Bhutan, and we had a social organization as a registered in Afghanistan. So a range of different organizations, but all working on the same objectives and principles. So that was it.
And also another vital point, ownership of asset, if you reflect on that. That will help everyone to understand.
That's right. And I think,
topic will come.
yeah, so that was it. And then to your question on the three different, challenges which one has facing, climate and women and digitalization versus inequality and tremendous corporatization. I would like to ask Aditya bhai, if you would like to say on the last one, and then I can take if time permits. Aditya bhai has been,
Come back. We'll
yeah.
come back to it.
On the livelihood recovery this thing, or
Yeah, on the corporatization
Yeah.
versus the social enterprise.
Namaste. I'm Aditya Ghosh. I work with Rima Ben, Jyoti Ben, Smita Ben is here. Our one of the efforts that has been that is kind of been
Aditya
a
bhai, you
focus
may
area.
want to introduce yourself as well.
I actually spent most of my time in the last 20 years in the airline business. Mr. Srivastav knows me from there. I used to lead Indigo, the airline, for about 15 years. And then more recently, I got involved in starting a second airline called Akasa. And a bunch of other things. Thanks to Anita Ben, I got introduced to Rima Ben about 6 years back, and I've been reasonably quite actively involved with our sisters in the what we call the Seva social enterprises, and that's what I was coming to. We have created something called Nirantar Seva, which imagine it as like a catalytic group within Seva, where the idea is to support the 4 or 5, and I say 4 or 5 because they work in very close tandem with each other, the 5 social enterprises of Seva. And I'll come to how it kind of has a slightly distinct character from the trade union as such. So these are 5, Rudy being the largest, which Rima Ben spoke about. There is the Seva Trade Facilitation Center, which for the longest time worked in the garments area. You'll see some of our products in the foyer when you might have come off your car. Third is a social enterprise which is quite closely linked to Rudy called Kamla, which looks at bakery products and agricultural products.
Aditya bhai, Kamla served Gujarati food yesterday.
Oh, fantastic! And if you went to IIM Ahmedabad, you'll see a Kamla cafe there. If you went to Bodak Dev in Ahmedabad, you'll have a phenomenal meal at Kamla. So, and then there is Gitanjali, which does waste to product. And something that I will come to, and Jyoti Ben is very involved in it also, is what we call the grassroots trading network, which works directly in the climate change area. So what Rima Ben was mentioning was the last 5-6 years, the effort has been how do we organize these 5 social enterprises to make profit, and then use that profit to plow it back into the organization. All the social enterprises are owned by the Seva sisters. There is a professional board, so Anita Ben is on it, Mr. Rai is on one of ours, a bunch of different people with various kinds of experience. And then how do we bring in modern sort of management principles and ways of working, whether it is branding, whether it is marketing, whether it is procurement, logistics, transportation, etc., but all owned, run, organized by Seva sisters only facilitated and maybe supported by people like us, right? I'll make two quick references, and then Ms. Agarwal, you can bring it in for discussions later. One is what I was calling GTN, where I'll give you a couple of examples. We have a big solar park now, which is owned by the sisters. Then one of the really ground level efforts that we've done is changing agri water pumps to solar powered agri water pumps, in the Run of Kutch, in the salt pans, where if you were running diesel powered agri water pumps, it would mean that our sisters would have to walk to 20 kilometers each way with a jerry can on their head to get 20 liters of diesel, come back, put it, and it's and at the peak of summer, it's about 54, 57, 58 degrees temperature. It is so hot that many of you may already know that the homes don't have four walls, because otherwise it will become an oven. So just so that the hot wind can flow through and to somewhat, battle the greenhouse effect that happens there. And then to convert them into solar agri water pumps, so it reduces the dependency on fossil fuel, reduces the impact on productivity, and also it helps the younger members to also become proficient in repairing those water pumps, in installing those water pumps, etc., etc. The other one that I'm sure Rimaben and Jyotiben will talk about is something which is more recent, and just like there was a conversation about the banks in the second AGM, one of the more recent efforts has been this blended finance pool called the Livelihood Recovery Fund, Livelihood Recovery and Resilience Fund. And it is basically a blended finance tool to provide affordable finance, to provide small credit, increase financial literacy, so that we are able to protect our sisters from the shocks that climate change and related epidemics bring to our sisters, because that can push them from earning a reasonable household income to poverty literally in one season. So that's a method to bring in CSR funds, to philanthropic funds, formal lenders, and so on and so forth, and then give that credit. So we've, I think, made some 14,000 individual interventions to about 5,000 members till date. So remember, I'll hand it over back to you. Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you very much. That's very, very interesting. It expands on what you talked about in terms of your current very important engagement with climate change issues and, of course, shift to renewable energies. So on the ambassadors, I just wanted to briefly mention three things on what you said. Ambassador Aziz, is that? Yes. Which is a very important reminder of the need to handshake between South Asians, which has increasingly become more belligerent and separated, that we are a region. So in this context, I remember I'd written this book in 1994, and you mentioned assets, called A Field of One's Own, which was Gender and Land Rights in South Asia, which covered Bangladesh, Nepal, India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. It was on a major asset like land, but the important thing was that I visited everywhere. Went to Bangladesh several times, and at that point you could travel to Pakistan and Sri Lanka and so on. And what struck me when I was working on this book was, given India's diversity, that regionally how much you could learn. So what was common between, say, Pakistan and northwest India, in terms of soils and crops and many of the things you're talking about and the current challenges of heat waves and so on, was quite different to Bangladesh and what it shared with West Bengal, for instance. The nature of the arsenic poisoning of the water and so on, and Sri Lanka and South India. So I think the reminder and revival of that is very important. It's not that we don't recognize it. Seva does, as you said, but it's the revival of it in a much more in a different political sense. The second is, of course, I always think of Bangladesh as having gifted us some very important institutions. The most important being, of course, Grameen Bank. Now, I met Muhammad Yunus long before he won the Nobel Prize, when he was recruiting young workers to join the bank. And I sat in on the interviews. I was really struck by the kind of energy and the kinds of people who are applying. But what we learned from that initial institution was small groups, economically homogeneous, individual loans, group liability. Now, those were the sorts of principles on which Grameen was founded. It was started with both men and women's groups. It ended up with 98% women's groups. There's a question there: do women have less conflict, get along better? You answered it partly. And I think that institution became the basis. After all, it was the 70s when Muhammad Yunus intervened. You went to, it's in Durban, it's in Arkansas, and so on. And our self-help groups, the institutional form, I think we owe a debt to that when we think about it. And of course, as an economist, I know that collective action theory means groups should be small, they should be economically homogeneous, but who listens to economists? Except Chittagong, when Muhammad Yunus, as an economist, actually proved it on the ground. So I think that's a very important intervention. The second was BRAC. So I met Abedji and so on. I visited. And what was very interesting about the early evaluations and writings on BRAC were that they formed women into small groups. And they are the ones who then, you have seen the garment workers and so on and so forth. And early writings by people like Marty Chen and Jim Boyce and others was that these women were able to challenge social norms. As a group, they could tell the clergy that the Samiti is going to protect us, and we're going to, there's no shame in going out to work. After all, it's in the eyes of the beholder, and so on. Everybody knows about that. But I think those institutional forms have survived and spread across South Asia. And I think the power of ideas is precisely that you can't stop them from spreading across borders, and increasingly less so. Finally, I just wanted to say, Rima Ben and to others, is that, the issue, so there was a planning commission meeting just a few days ago, organized by Vigo and Renana Ben and so on, and in which there was a discussion on women entrepreneurs. So in that context, it struck me, because the data makes a big mess between who is an entrepreneur and if you're a worker or not, that I wanted to ask this question: what separates a woman wage worker from somebody you would call as a woman entrepreneur? You could think of many things, but I can say it in a word. It's whether you own the asset or not. The difference between an agricultural wage laborer and a farmer is who owns the land. So assets is absolutely key. Now, and I'll just end with that, that we think of assets as individual assets. However, what if people pool their assets? So if you take the example, that state in the corner where you have Kudumshri in Kerala, you have women pooling, leasing land, labor, capital, and cultivating jointly. Can you guess how many all women's groups there are? Rinaji, you would know. Does anybody want to have a guess? 73,000 all women's groups. And when I compared group farms, the women's groups farms with individual family farms, they had 1.8 times per hectare the annual value of output compared to individual farms. They had 5 times the net gains of an individual family farm. So there's, I'm trying to working on a book on this, but I think there's a way in which there are these models of a different kind of entrepreneurship, where all our women are in agriculture. So and I took more time than I had planned to, but That is an idea. I hope when my book is written, I'll come to Bangladesh as well and talk about it. But it's very fertile ground, don't you think, for pooling as well? So, should we invite our sisters to speak in this order that I have here? So, we hear directly from Seva Women. I have सखी बहन हीर, आप बोलेंगी? हाँ, आप हिंदी में बोलेंगी? तो सखी बहन हीर, ये she works with small and marginal farmers, and the members also run a decentralized garments value chain, and they work on sustainable livelihoods. तो आप उसके बारे में बताएंगी, अपने काम के बारे में? हाँ, थोड़ा संक्षेप में, हाँ, 5-6 मिनट में।
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम सखी है, मेरे गांव का नाम धोकावाड़ा है और मैं गुजरात के पाटन ज़िले से आती हूँ और मैं एक सेवा की सभ्य बहन हूँ। सेवा में 12 साल से जुड़ी हुई हूँ, सेवा की तीसरी पीढ़ी हूँ। मेरी मम्मी भी सेवा में 30 साल से जुड़ी हुई है। मैं सेवा की कारोबारी सभ्य बहन भी हूँ और मैं जहाँ से आती हूँ वो एरिया पाकिस्तान की बॉर्डर से नज़दीक है। पहले मैं अपने बारे में बताऊँ तो हमारे पास न पीने के लिए पानी था और न कोई रोजगारी थी। जैसे मैंने अपने कपड़े जो पहने थे वो हमारी परंपरागत कारीगरी थी, लेकिन हमें पता नहीं था तो इसमें से हम कुछ कर सकते हैं या कुछ रोजगारी मिल सकती है। लेकिन जब हमारे पास इलाबेन आए, रीमाबेन आए, तो उसने सोचा कि पहले तो आए थे तो पानी के लिए, क्योंकि हमारे पास पीने के लिए पानी ही नहीं था, हम दूसरे गांव चले जाते थे। लेकिन जब बहन ने देखा कि तो बहुत अच्छी काम कर रहे हैं, तो इसमें से बहनों को घर बैठे कैसे रोजगारी दिला सके। फिर हम संगठन में, क्योंकि हमारे पास तो ऐसा था कि हमारा गांव ही हमारी दुनिया थी, हम बाहर ही नहीं निकलते थे। लेकिन बहन ने बार बार आके बताया कि मैं इसमें से आपको कुछ काम दूंगी और इसमें से आपको कुछ रोजगारी दूंगी। लेकिन हमारी बहनें तैयार ही नहीं थी, कि वो डरती थी कि ना ये बहन हमें क्या देगी और इसमें से हमें क्या मिलेगा। लेकिन फिर बहन बार बार आई, वो बोलने लगी कि नहीं मैं आपको काम दूंगी। फिर हम सेवा के साथ जुड़े, हमारा थोड़ा थोड़ा संगठन हुआ। बहनें जिसे रोजगारी आने लगी तो बहनें संगठन में जुड़ने लगी। फिर हमारा संगठन 15,000 बहनों तक का पहुंचा। फिर हमने सोचा कि ये काम से हमें रोजगारी तो आ रही है, लेकिन हमारा कुछ नाम होना चाहिए, क्योंकि हम सेवा में ऐसा है कि हमारी सेवा हमारे लिए और भी कुछ कर ही सकती है। तो हमने सेवा को बोला कि हमारे लिए ऐसा क्या करें कि हमारा काम है अपने इधर तक तो पहुंचा सका, लेकिन पूरी दुनिया कैसे इसको पहचाने। इसलिए हमारी सेवा ने हमारे लिए खुद की कंपनी बनाई। दुनिया में बड़े बड़े लोगों की तो कंपनियां होती है, लेकिन हमारी उन्नत बाजार कंपनी ऐसी है कि जिसके मालिक और मैनेजर हम खुद बहने हैं। और उसमें काचे माल से लेके जैसे मार्केटिंग आज हमारा वहाँ भी चल रहा है, तो मार्केटिंग तक का काम हम खुद बहने करते हैं। और आज हम घर बैठे ऐसे 10 से 12 हज़ार तक का कमा लेते हैं। और हमने हमारी हंसीवा ब्रांड भी बनाई। तो जैसे आज तो हमारा 32 लाख बहनों का संगठन हो गया है और 18 राज्यों में हम काम कर रहे हैं। तो हमारी और भी बहनें जो घर बैठे काम कर रही थी, तो हमारी सेवा ने सोचा कि वो बहनों को हम कैसे साथ में जुड़ सके, कि उनको भी रोजगारी मिल सके। तो फिर हमने सोचा कि ऐसा क्या करें कि हमारी सभी बहनें एक साथ जुड़ के रहे और संगठन में जुड़ जाए। तो फिर हमने हमारी सेवा बाजार शुरू किया और सेवा बाजार में हमें पूरे राज्य की बहनें मिलजुल के अपना काम बेचती है और अपना काम का जो आइटम है उनको पूरी दुनिया तक ले जाने के लिए क्या करें, वो हमारी पूरा सेवा बाजार में चलता है। और मैं थोड़ा अपने बारे में बताऊँ तो पहले जैसे रोजगारी नहीं थी, तो शिक्षण के बारे में तो कोई सोचता ही नहीं था कि शिक्षण क्या है, लड़कियों को क्या पढ़ना है। मेरी मम्मी ऐसा बोलती थी कि हमारा गाँव ही तो दुनिया है, उसके बारे में जाना नहीं तो पढ़ के क्या करना। लेकिन जब मेरी मम्मी रीमाबेन के साथ बाहर जाने लगी तो उसने देखा कि नहीं, लड़की को भी पढ़ाना तो चाहिए। फिर मेरी मम्मी ने भरत काम करके आज मैं जो आपके सामने बोल रही हूँ, तो मेरी मम्मी ने वो काम करके या हमारी सेवा की जो बैंक है उसमें लोन लेके मुझे पढ़ाई की और आज मैं BA MA तक की पढ़ाई पूरी की है। और मैं अपने समाज में ऐसी पहली लड़की थी जो इतना पढ़ी थी, तो समाज भी बोलता था कि लड़कियों को पढ़ाएगी तो बाहर जाएगी और क्या करेगी वही पता नहीं था। लेकिन आज वही समाज की लड़कियां कलेक्टर तक बनी है, तो वो सेवा के जरिए ही बनी है। और वो पूरा समाज आज लड़कों से ज़्यादा लड़कियों को पढ़ा रहा है। और हम गांव में जाते हैं तो अभी हमारा इलाबेन का वही सपना था कि हम 50 साल तो पूरा कर गए, लेकिन अब आने वाली जो हमारे सेवा में 60 तक का बहन है, जो हमारे जैसी नई पीढ़ी की लड़कियां जुड़ रही है, तो पूरा क्लाइमेट चेंज हो रहा है, तो उसकी सबसे ज़्यादा हम घर बैठे या बाहर जाके काम कर रहे हैं बहनें, उनके ऊपर होती है। सबके ऊपर तो होती है, लेकिन हमें बाहर जाके काम करना पड़ता है अपने घर में बैठ के रोजगार के लिए, क्योंकि ऐसी भी बहनें हैं आज क्या कमाती है और आज क्या ही खाती है, तो सबसे ज़्यादा हमारे ऊपर वो असर होती है। तो फिर हमारी सेवा में से हमको बोला कि तो आपका बीमा लेना है, तो हम तो बोल रहे हैं कि नहीं, हमारा बीमा कैसे होता है, बीमा तो बड़े बड़े लोग होते हैं वो ही लेते हैं, हमारा बीमा नहीं होता है। तो फिर हमारी सेवा में बहनें आके बार बार बताने लगी कि नहीं, हमारा वो पूरा क्लाइमेट चेंज हो रहा है, इसलिए हमें हीट वेव का बीमा लेना है। तो फिर बहनें मानी। फिर मैंने अपने ही गांव में 1500 आजू बाजू के गांव की बहनों को जोड़ा और उनका प्रीमियम लेके बीमा लिया। तो दूसरी बार जब हमारा हीट वेव हुआ तब हमारी बहनों के खाते में 3000 रुपये तक का वो आया। और बहनों को जब इतनी गर्मी में अपना काम नहीं कर सकती, क्योंकि इतनी धूप होती है हमारे वहाँ, हमें बाहर जाने के लिए, क्योंकि हमारा घर का चलाना है तो बाहर तो जाना ही पड़ेगा, लेकिन वो तकलीफ में हमें वो पैसा कैसे वो यूज़ कर सके। तो वो जैसे हमारा घर का खाना, आज हम बीमार हो गए तो वो पैसा लेके हम अपना एक दिन का गुजारा कर सकते हैं। तो वो हीटवे का बीमा भी हमारे लिए पहली बार ऐसा लगा कि नहीं, हमारा खुद का बैंक में पैसा आया और हमारा भी बीमा है। तो आज हम गर्व से कहते हैं कि हमारी सेवा का हम सभ्य है। और आज मैं अपने एक के लिए नहीं, लेकिन मेरी 32 लाख बहनों की वती आपके समक्ष बोल रही हूँ। और हमारी सेवा ने हमारे लिए बहुत कुछ किया, लेकिन टाइम नहीं है कि आपके सामने इतना बता सके। फिर भी हम आप सबका शुक्रिया अदा करते हैं कि आपने हमें बुलाया और हमारा सुना। बस जय सेवा।
बहुत धन्यवाद। और रीमा बहन ब्रीफली ट्रांसलेट कर देंगी।
I'll just quickly translate what Sakhi Ben said for our friends from the Australian High Commission, and a few of them, I see them. Sakhi Ben comes from Patan district in Gujarat, and her village is bordering Pakistan, and they all have this traditional skill, but yet they had to migrate year after year in search of work, and therefore educating girls in the community was hardly an important, they felt it is important. But as they started getting organized into seva, her mother, she's the third generation and her mother was the first one, and when she started going out, they used to think that the village is their own world, so they don't need to do anything beyond that. But as her mother started going out, she realized that there's much more that one should also learn and know, and that's why she realized the importance of education. She then sent Sakhi Ben, was the first one in that community to go to a school, and today she has done her masters as well. And having seen her, even though her going to school, there was a lot of resistance that you will be spoiling your daughter, sending her to school. But now in her community, a lot of girls are sent. In fact, more girls than boys are getting educated. They are collectors, engineers, they are into different government jobs. And she's saying that our traditional skill has brought us security, and we wanted that how do we take our skill to the outside world also, and that's why we have our own brand, Hansiba. You might have seen a lot of companies where there's a rich person who owns it, but ours is a company now which is owned by artisans like us only, and now we see that young members of seva are increasing like me. And how do we bring in new technology and new skills to the members? But climate is another big challenge, so that's what we are now spearheading, a whole climate action campaign. And the first time we were introduced to something called parametric insurance, and we always thought that insurance is for the rich, not for poor like us. But the first time we realized that we don't have to prove that there was a heat wave, but only when your phone shows that the temperature crossed a certain limit, our claims were paid out, and that's how now more and more women are joining the parametric insurance program. Thank you
for adding to that as well. Invite Sabrina Nazir Ben. She's from Kashmir, Kapurwara, and her story, own personal story, is also very interesting. Please.
Namaste, Assalamu alaikum. मेरा नाम सबरीना नज़ीर, मैं कश्मीर डिस्ट्रिक्ट कुपवारा से बिलोंग करती हूँ। पहले तो मैंने 7th में तक पढ़ी, नहीं 6th तक ही पढ़ी। तो फिर घर वालों ने बोला कि आपको स्कूल नहीं जाना है, क्योंकि पापा के पास उतना पैसा नहीं था कि स्कूल भेजे मुझे। तो बाद में मैंने सुना कि सेवा बहनें आए हैं, सेवा सेंटर है, आप वहाँ पे जाओ। मैंने सुना वहाँ पड़ोसी में किसी लड़की ने मुझे बोला, तो फिर मैं गई। 3 महीने मैंने ट्रेनिंग ली और 3 महीने के बाद मुझे रितु कुमार जी का ऑर्डर आया था। तो पहला ऑर्डर मैंने वही किया था, तो उसमें से हमें बहुत अच्छा लगा और बहुत फ़ायदा और पैसा भी मिला। और मेरे पहले तो हमें घर से निकलने नहीं देते लड़कियों को, क्योंकि कश्मीर में बहुत हालात ख़राब रहते हैं, क्योंकि पापा मज़दूरी करते थे, तो उस वजह से वो भी नहीं जा सकते थे मज़दूरी करने। कभी कभी जाते थे, लेकिन उससे मतलब सब ये नहीं होते थे घर का ये सब। तो फिर बाद में सेवा में गई और सेवा में काम करने लगे। आहिस्ता आहिस्ता मैं ऐसे काम करने लगी कि जो मेरे पड़ोसी बातें कर रही थी, ये पता नहीं कहाँ जाती है, क्या करने जाते हैं, सेवा क्या है क्या नहीं है। फिर बाद में जब मैं कुछ कमाने लगे, तो जो दूसरे बहनें थे वो भी घर में पड़ी रहते थे, क्योंकि वो भी नहीं पढ़ सकते थे, कि जैसे हमारी हालत है वैसे वो भी थे। तो फिर वो भी आने लगे। जब मैं कमाने लगी, तो मैंने अपनी पढ़ाई भी शुरू की, स्टार्ट की। आज मैं ग्रेजुएशन किया है और अपने पापा के लिए मेडिसिन लाती हूँ, मम्मी के लिए, अपने घर के लिए जो भी अखराजात होते हैं वो भी लाती हूँ। और छोटे हम बहन 4 है और भाई 1 है, वो सबसे छोटा है। और उनकी पढ़ाई भी मैंने स्टार्ट करवाई। और मैं सेवा का शुक्रिया अदा करती हूँ, क्योंकि जैसे मुझे एक उम्मीद उन्होंने बढ़ाई, वैसे और भी बहनें है भी और आगे भी होंगे। और जो मेरे साथ काम भी बहनें करते वो भी शुक्रिया करते सेवा के, क्योंकि वो नहीं आ सकते। हम पूरे जो आए वो सेवा का शुक्रिया करते दिल से।
Sabrina Nazir is from Kupwara in Kashmir, and she said that you all are aware of the situation in Kashmir, and therefore I could only study up to class 6, and then I was pulled out of school because my father was a casual laborer. He could hardly find work, and we could not afford to continue my education. But then Seva came to our area, and then I heard that Seva is there, so I went to the center and I got trained into Ari embroidery work, and Ritu Kumar's order I started working on it, so that gave me some good income as well. Normally girls or young girls like me are not allowed to go out of the homes in my area. All the neighbors were also saying that where is she going every day and coming, and who knows what is going to happen. But when I started earning and started bringing steady income, then other girls also started following me and coming. So I restarted my education and I've completed graduation now. And I not only take care of my studies, but I take care of my father's treatment as well, and my other siblings. I have 3 other younger sisters and a brother, and I take care of their education as well. So organizing, had I not become a member of Seva and gotten organized, I may not have been able to even come today and be with you all, but this is what the change we could experience. Thank you.
Rima Ben, she's added some very important details, which is very helpful. So, it's very interesting because here we have the ability to break social norms. So the issue of earnings, of organizing, and then getting education. And this is something I was very struck by also in Bangladesh, that as a group, when they started earning, their families supported them, the husband supported them, and they were able to deal with social norms. So I think those are important implicit lessons in these individual stories. May I request Sering Angmo from Ladakh? बहन आप बोलें.
जुले सभी को नमस्कार. मेरा नाम श्री अंगमो है. मैं लद्दाख से हूँ. सिटी से दूर 15 किलोमीटर फ्यांग गाँव से रहने वाला हूँ. पहले तो हम लोग बहन लोग ऐसे घर में रहते हैं. अभी सेवा की तरफ वहाँ सेवा सेंटर खोला तो सेवा सेंटर में मैं 8 साल से पहले गया. 8 साल से काम करता है उधर. सेवा सेंटर में 5 साल ट्रेनिंग किया. सीबाकथोन ट्रेनिंग किया. सीबाकथोन जूस बनाते, सीबाकथोन जाम बनाते, एवरीकोट जाम बनाते, एवरीकोट जूस बनाते, पोली बनाते हैं. सब कुछ वहाँ से ट्रेनिंग करके 5 साल उधर ट्रेनिंग किया. उसके बाद हम 5-6 भाई बहन मिल के अलग सा सेंटर, छोटा सा सेंटर बना के हमारा ग्रुप का नाम जम्बाला ग्रुप है. ग्रुप में हम 6 बहन मिल के काम करते हैं. सीबाकथोन जूस, एवरीकोट जाम जूस बना के हम वहाँ एग्जीबिशन में जाता है. कहीं कहीं जगह में हम अहमदाबाद में एक बार गया, जम्मू में एक बार गया एग्जीबिशन में. अभी फर्स्ट टाइम मैं इधर दिल्ली में आया. मेरे को बहुत काम मिला, बहुत पैसा मिला. हम बहन को 2,000 जमा करता है महीने में. इतने बढ़ के 6,000, कभी कभी 5,000, कभी कभी 10,000 भी आता है. बहुत इनकम भी आ. उस 2 साल से पहले मैं अहमदाबाद में गया ये होम स्टे ट्रेनिंग के लिए. मैं 7 दिन के लिए ट्रेनिंग करते घर पे. अभी तो मैं साथ होम स्टे भी चलाता है. मेरे को बहुत अच्छा लगता है. ठीक है.
वो गाना गा लेना है आपको, छोटा सा गाना.
इससे तो बहुत लंबा वो गाना है. अभी मैं छोटा सा Ilam stem rel chanto Chinangyan to chilin meka Chazan tui marito Hela nang muluti chulum pavo Chikadim barito Julesa
क्विकली से.
नमस्ते सभी को. मेरा नाम निल्जा है. जो अभी इन्होंने गाया इस सॉन्ग, ये बहुत पुराना सॉन्ग है जब लद्दाख में सिर्फ लद्दाखी थे.
कैन यू स्पीक इन इंग्लिश सो एवरीबडी कैन अंडरस्टैंड?
This song is a folk song. It's a very old song. It was during a time when there was no roads, no bridges. So it's a song saying that today I saw a dream, and it was a very auspicious dream where I seen bridges building over the Indus River and roads. We are walking on a black road, and where women are treating and giving respect like a jewel, like a pearl jewel. So it's a dream about development, how happy we were in our future. It's song like that. Thank you everyone.
So thank you very much. I'd like to ask Manjula Behen to say a few words. Manjula Behen Rajasthan se hain. She's from Rajasthan, and it's a poor tribal area, but they're doing something very modern, e-vehicles.
नमस्ते. मैं छोटे उद्योग शासिकता की एक छात्रा हूँ. मेरा नाम मंजुला बहन भगवानलाल खाट. मैं राजस्थान के डूंगरपुर जिले के गांव रंतोल की रहने वाली हूँ. सेवा में पिछले 15 साल से जुड़ी हुई हूँ. डूंगरपुर जिला पिछड़ा जिला माना जाता है जहाँ पहाड़ी इलाका एवं घर डूंगरों पर बसे हुए हैं. मैं मूल रूप से किसान परिवार से हूँ और खेती का काम करती हूँ. 2006 में डूंगरपुर ज़िले में सेवा की शुरुआत हुई थी। आज हमारे डूंगरपुर ज़िले में 26,000 का सदस्य का संगठन है। हम बहनों ने देखा कि हमारे गांव में पानी की बड़ी समस्या थी। गर्मियों में पानी बहुत कम पड़ जाता था, कई बार तो दूर दूर से भी लाना पड़ता था और पीने का भी संकट हो जाता था। तो हमने तय किया कि हम अकेले नहीं बल्कि मिलकर इस समस्या का समाधान निकालें। सभी बहनों ने मिलकर तालाब है, सरोवर है, वर्षा का पानी रोकने जैसा हमने काम शुरू किया। और मैं खेती का काम करती हूँ और पशुपालन भी हूँ और रूढ़ी बहन भी हूँ। रूढ़ी के बेचन में लागत ज़्यादा एवं मुनाफा बहुत कम मिलता था, जैसे बाजार के दामों की सही जानकारी का अभाव, आत्मविश्वास और नेतृत्व की क्षमता। इन चुनौतियों ने मुझे आगे बढ़ने के लिए नई राह ढूंढने पर मजबूर किया और मेरी सेवा से जुड़कर अलग अलग प्रशिक्षण लिया और तालीमें ली। खेती की तालीम, जैविक खाद, प्राकृतिक खेती और नई तकनीकें अपनाई और धीरे धीरे मेरा आत्मविश्वास बढ़ा और मैंने एक साहसिक कदम उठाया और रूढ़ी बहन के रूप में एक उद्योग शुरू किया। हमारे ज़िले में स्वच्छ आकाश झुम्बेश के अंतर्गत 50 इलेक्ट्रिक वाहन बहनों ने खरीदे, जिसके तहत मैंने भी एक व्हीकल खरीदा। डूंगरपुर जैसे पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों में गांव से गांव जाने के लिए घंटों इंतजार करना पड़ता था और अब मैं अपने व्हीकल से सीधे अपने ग्राहकों तक पहुंचती हूं और बड़ा ऑर्डर मुझे मिलता है तो मैं तुरंत पहुंचाने की मेरी सुविधा हो गई है। और डूंगरपुर जैसे पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों में हम जैसे बहनों को मतलब व्हीकल चलाना बहुत मुश्किल था और मैं तो समझ में नहीं पाती थी कि मैं व्हीकल चलाऊंगी। मेरे गांव के लोग बोलते कि बहन तू कैसे चलाएगी। मैंने कहा कि मेरी सेवा की बहनों ने मुझे ये सिखाया है, तो जो डर गया वो मर गया, हमें डरना नहीं है। तो मैंने सोचा कि मैं चलाऊंगी, क्योंकि मुझे गांव में जाने के लिए घंटों इंतजार करना पड़ा था। कई बार तो रिक्शा ही नहीं मिलते हमको, ऑटो मिलते ही नहीं और पैसा भी ज़्यादा ले लेते। तो मैंने सोचा अब तो कुछ न कुछ तो मुझे करना ही है। और मेरी दूसरी बहनें जो 50 व्हीकल बहनें ने लिए हैं वो भी अपने व्हीकलों से अपने आत्मनिर्भर बनी है। और मैं हमारे स्वच्छ आकाश झुम्बेश के अंतर्गत मैंने एक बायोगैस बनाया है, जिसके तहत मेरी गैस की बचत हुई है। आज मैं जैविक खाद बनाकर अपनी खेती में उपयोग करती हूँ, तो मेरी आय भी बढ़ी है और मैं मेरे परिवार का मतलब स्वच्छ से खाना खिला रही हूँ। और अगर हमें अच्छे मतलब मंच से जुड़ाव हो तो हर महिला अपने क्षेत्रों में सफलता पा सकती है। मैंने कक्षा 6 तक की पढ़ाई की थी और मैंने सेवा से जुड़कर कक्षा 10वीं एवं 12वीं पढ़ाई पूरी की है। लोग मुझे बोलते थे कि अब तू पढ़ाई करेगी इतनी उम्र में। मैं क्यों अब क्यों नहीं, पढ़ाई का तो कोई उम्र ही नहीं है। मैंने कक्षा 6वीं और 10वीं पूरी की है। नमस्ते। समय अपने पास कम है, इसलिए मैं सेवा की बहनों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करती हूँ। और मुझे दिल्ली आने का मौका मिला तो मेरे हस्बैंड भी मुझे बोले तू तो बहुत नसीब वाली है, आज दिल्ली जा रही है। और आज मैंने बोला कि हमारे शाम की फ्लाइट की टिकट है, तो वो बहुत खुश हो गए। हमको तो बैठने ही नहीं मिला और आप फ्लाइट में बैठोगे। तो मैं सेवा की बहनों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करती हूँ। नमस्ते।
I'll quickly translate. Manjula Ben is from Dungarpur district in Rajasthan, and hers is a very hilly terrain but mainly tribal dominated, and she's a small farmer but rain fed agriculture, and therefore it was becoming very difficult. So then she became a Rudi Ben, which is a saleswoman who goes from village to village and house to house, and she was saying that I had to wait for hours and hours to get a transportation facility, but under our Cleaner Skies campaign, and Deepa ji is here thanks to NRDC, that they brought the electric vehicles to our area. From 50 vehicles had to be, and I thought that let me try, and so I took a loan and took an electric vehicle. Pehle to I was also not sure whether I'll be able to handle and manage all this, but then I with confidence now I go from village to village, so my sales has also increased. And under the same campaign I brought a biogas, so I now don't have to pay for the gas cylinder as well, and I can cook better and healthy food for my family as well. And I was educated only up to class 6, but then I thought that I should now restart my education, so I finished class 10 and 12. Everybody used to laugh at me that at this age why do you need to study, but I said education has no age. And I only want to say that you know, if women get a platform and an opportunity, then, you know, there's nothing that can stop her from taking newer opportunities. So this is what I wanted to share. Thank you so much. And today, my husband is also quite supportive, because I told him that I'm going to take a flight back, and he said, oh wow, that I had never even seen Delhi and imagined, but you're going to fly back home. So that's the kind of.
So we are slightly running over time. I was told I could go until 1:15 if people are willing to stay. We're going, and then, yeah, okay, wonderful. So, you know, I just wanted to add that I come from Rajasthan, my grandparents, and Rajasthan is really conservative. So the richer you are, the more conservative. So women's education is a no-no. So आप इतनी पढ़ी हैं इसके लिए और इतनी हिम्मत करिए, and I would just say let's all get e-vehicles and flood Delhi. Thank you. एक बहन और हैं जिनकी हम आवाज़ सुनना चाहते हैं, नसीज़ा नाज. आप ब्रीफली, क्योंकि थोड़ा सा समय कम है.
संक्षिप्त में, ब्रीफ माने छोटा.
नमस्ते आप सभी को. मेरा नाम नाजिश नाज है. मैं आप सभी जो बहनें यहाँ बैठी हुई हैं सुंदर कपड़ों में मुस्कुराते हुए, ज़रा अपने हाथ की कलाई की तरफ देखिएगा. क्या कभी आपने ये सोचा ये सुंदर कांच की रंग बिरंगी चूड़ियाँ कैसे बनती हैं, इन्हें किसने और क्यों बनाया? तो मैं आपको वही कहानी सुनाने आई हूँ, एक चूड़ी बनाने वाली की कहानी. मैं उत्तर प्रदेश के ज़िला फिरोजाबाद से हूँ, जहाँ पर चूड़ी एकमात्र औरत का जेवर ही नहीं बल्कि रोजी रोटी का जरिया है. वहाँ पर यह काम परिवार में पीढ़ियों से चला आ रहा है. जब मैं 7 साल की थी तब से मैंने चूड़ी बनाने का काम अपने घर पर अपनी माँ के साथ किया, क्योंकि अगर मैं ये काम नहीं करती तो मैं आगे नहीं बढ़ पाती. मैं अपने परिवार की यानी अपने पूरे ख़ानदान की पहली लड़की हूँ जिसने ग्रेजुएट कंप्लीट किया हुआ है. मेरी फैमिली से क्या, मेरी बस्ती में भी लड़कियों को पढ़ने के लिए नहीं भेजा जाता था. मैं खुद एक इतनी डरी हुई लड़की रहती थी, शर्माती हुई, कि मैंने 10th क्लास तो घर के बराबर वाले स्कूल से किया. जब मेरा MG गर्ल्स इंटर कॉलेज, महात्मा गांधी इंटर कॉलेज में मेरा एडमिशन हुआ, तो मैं खुद घर से बाहर अकेली नहीं जाया करती थी. तो मैं रो रही थी. एक बार मेरी जो फ्रेंड थी वो नहीं गई, तो मुझे डर लग रहा, मैं रो रही. तो फिर मैं अकेली नहीं जा रही थी. जब मैं सेवा से जुड़ी तो मुझे इतना हौसला मिला कि मैं घर से बाहर के, अब मैं शहर से बाहर अकेले आ जा सकती हूँ. मैं अपने यहाँ की पहली लड़की भाइयों में भी, जो मैं पहली बार सेवा की तरफ से अहमदाबाद गई. तो इस काम को करने में बहुत सारी मुश्किलें आती हैं. चूड़ी बनाते समय अक्सर हमारे हाथ कट जाते हैं. हाथ कटने की वजह से जलन पड़ती है, एलर्जी भी हो जाती है. इस काम को करते समय हम जो चूड़ियाँ बनाते हैं वो टूट हो जाती है, उसमें हमारा नुकसान होता है, और काम वाला जो मालिक होता है वो हमारे पैसे काट लेता है. गर्मियों के दिनों में अक्सर भट्टी के सामने काम करते समय, फैक्ट्री हो या घर पर, जो गर्म हवा निकलती है वो महसूस करते हैं. तो उसको महसूस करते हैं, उस हवा को सहते हैं, उसकी वजह से हमारे सर में दर्द होता है, हमें चक्कर आती है. और जो चूड़ियों की सजावट होती है तो उस पर जो हम कलर है, रंग है, इनका उपयोग करते हैं, तो उसकी वजह से हमें सांस लेने में दिक्कत होती है और हमारी आंखों में जलन हो जाती है. कभी कभी तो इतना इन्फेक्शन हो जाता है जो फैक्ट्री में काम होता है कि हमारे लंग्स तक डैमेज हो जाते हैं. जब मैं सेवा से जुड़ी तो हमें हमारे अधिकारों के बारे में पता चला. इससे पहले जब हम काम किया करते थे तो हमें ये नहीं पता चलता था कि बीमा क्या होता है, कैसे क्या है. जब मैं सेवा से जुड़ी तो स्वास्थ्य के प्रति जो जागरूकता है और सामाजिक सुरक्षा की योजनाओं से जुड़ने में सेवा ने हमारी बहुत मदद की. पहले मैं आज्ञावन के रूप में जुड़ी, मैं फिर एक रूढ़ी बहन बनी. मैं उस टाइम पर रूढ़ी के सामान का लेन देन किया करती थी. मैं साथ ही साथ फिरोजाबाद डिपो की देखरेख करती थी. उसके साथ साथ मैं आज्ञावन से रूढ़ी बनी, रूढ़ी से मैं मास्टर ट्रेनर बनी. इससे मेरी आर्थिक स्थिति मजबूत हुई और मैंने अपने परिवार को भी मजबूती दी. तो अब फिरोजाबाद की सदस्यता तो 16,000 है, लेकिन अब हम 2,000 बहनों को काम दे चुके हैं। सेवा की तरफ से हमारे यहाँ हीट वेव का प्रोग्राम आया। जब मैंने ये हीट वेव का प्रोग्राम के लिए बहनों से मिली तो थैंक यू, आप सभी ने मेरी बात को सुना और समझा और मेरे सफ़र का हिस्सा बने। और सेवा ने हमें एक ऐसा मंच दिया है जहां हम अपनी आवाज़ को बुलंद कर सकते हैं और उस सेवा की तरफ से इतना सम्मान मिलता है। थैंक यू आप सभी को।
Thank you.
मैं एक मिनट नाजनीन बहन बता रही, शी सेइंग दैट शी इज़ अ बैंगल वर्कर इन यूपी एंड सिंस शी वाज 7 years old she has been helping her mother in making glass bangles, and today she's the first ever girl who got educated in her entire community. And then she was referring how difficult it was, but as a bangle worker, I think the issues that she's referring to is that if at all a glass bangle breaks, then you know the contractor or the agent who gives them bangles, he deducts the wages also from that, or if there are any mistakes that have been made, then their wages are deducted and therefore they make a loss out of it. If we have seen how bangles are made, you blow in front of a burner, and that's how the glass is bent into different shapes, and then they have to do the embellishment. And she says during the summer months it becomes extremely difficult for us to continuously keep blowing in that heat, and as a result they suffer from respiratory infections, so much so that very often at a young age the lungs have fibrosis as well, they have eye infections as well. But now being a member of Seva, they are aware about what is social protection, what are the different kinds of rights that they are aware of. And then she was talking about her own progress, how she got opportunity to become a community leader and then a Rudy salesperson and now a master trainer, and she has herself organized 16,000 women.
So now you get, thank you very much, बहुत धन्यवाद। आप कुछ कहना चाह रही थी? हाँ,
आप छोटे से बोल।
As Najishman talk about the Bengal worker also, so I want to share my experience in UP. So our 3 lakh membership in UP, and we just talk about the women's work. They are not the rights of her. What is the so we firstly we make the member of that women's, and we provide the more than facility as a government like Mission Shakti and SSG women's we added, and we just want to tell about that women's own rights. What is the rights of her? So they doesn't know the about pension and ration card and labor card also. So after joining the Seva, then our teams provide that facility. Seva provide more than things all that women, and we provide more than training of digital literacy. They doesn't know, they don't know the knowledge of education. So Sevas provide 20,000 women provide the digital literacy training that women. So that is my that is I'm sharing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That adds an additional perspective. This is just a snapshot of the very diversity of Seva's work and Seva's workers. But asli experience to hoga if you actually go and visit and hear them and see them in the field. We are short of time. We could sit here for a long time just to listen to them. But may I request Jyoti Ben to say a few words, and then Ankita Ben as well. Then we'll wind up.
Namaste and thank you, Binaji. I just wanted to add 2 things here and just give my introduction, because I also come from a tobacco agriculture worker family and was organized at Seva before 45 years. So I was just a member that time. I was working and studying, and then after I joined full-time Seva for organizing other workers like me. And from that very trade, I have been elected to be the General Secretary of SEWA. So I'm very proud member of SEWA. I think two things what we see, we ourselves have experienced, and that is SEWA invests a lot in organizing process, where the women workers trade-wise are involved in terms of making decisions, raising their issues, what are the solutions, what activities to be planned, monitoring, everything they are involved in. So I think that brings the ownership at SEWA, and that is very important to our workers' life when we SEWA. When we say we are with SEWA. And I think two things what in 53 years, what we have experienced ourselves as workers, what we have achieved is our collective organized strength and values, which Rima Ben already said. But these two are very, very important, which we already have earned as an asset to our union. And of course, while we celebrated 50 years of SEWA together with Ila Ben, we all promised that that was not a celebration of the 50 years which has gone, but that was a celebration of the 50 years to be coming. So we are going to celebrate 100 years with the youth, what we are having at SEWA. And I think lastly that becomes a slogan to us, because every time when I go outside and anyone asks, being a worker, that what is SEWA, and I would always say, I am SEWA. We all members at SEWA are SEWA. And that ownership, the SEWA has created a process in terms of so much of hard work to bring this ownership to all workers, and that means a lot to us. And that also has given a slogan, always, Hum Sab Ek. So we all are one, and that we will always remember in our life. And I know many of you, most of you, whoever are you are supporting us, we workers, SEWA, in many ways, and that means a lot to our workers' lives. So thank you so much for that.
Then briefly, Ankita Ben.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm Ankita. I've been part of SEWA movement for past 15 years, and I am here to talk a little bit about SEWA Bharat, which Rima Ben has already touched upon. And you all must have heard and read that SEWA is a movement, but I think you saw a live example of it right here when our sisters were talking. So they were from different states, different language, different culture, but what unites them is that they're all women workers belonging to the informal sector who have been organized. So as again, in the document that's there in front of us, that also says that organizing is the most crucial and it's the core of SEWA. Like, it's whatever we do, any kind of programs we do, any kind of institutions that are there. SEWA has different institutions, like again, Rima Ben said that we are a banyan tree, right? So there's one trunk and then there are different branches which represent different institutions, different collectives. So that's what ties us together, is the collective strength and organizing. And in there comes SEWA Bharat, which is the national federation, and it was formed with the core objective of taking or expanding the SEWA movement to different parts of the nation, so that we could reach out to different states and organize more and more women workers who contribute to the economy of the country but are not visible, right? So with that motive, with that vision in the mind, SEWA Bharat was formed. SEWA Bharat's role is basically, again, Rima Ben has already said, is to capacitate, it's to basically help in building new SEWAs, nurture the SEWAs, the small SEWAs that are already present in different states. So that's where SEWA Bharat's role comes. So SEWA Bharat tries and it builds different state SEWAs, and these state SEWAs in a way have a structure which touches into the holistic life of a woman. So we've been talking about collectives, we've been talking about like financial inclusion, we've been talking about unionizing, we've been talking about the welfare part. So each state SEWA eventually builds an ecosystem where it will have all these structures. So it will have a union, which is taking up the right-based activities. There's a welfare, which is doing, like my sister here said, linkages with different government schemes and different, policies that are there. Then there is banking or a cooperative, which is supporting their finances, and insurance, then producer companies. So all of that is part of Seva ecosystem, which Seva Bharat tries to leverage. It creates in different states. And if I may just quickly give you example of Seva in Delhi. So Seva has an as I said, state Seva. So just so each state Seva, and if I talk about Seva Delhi's example, so it has an institution which is registered as a trade union, then it has an institution which is registered as a society, then it has an institution which provides financial inclusion to our women members, and then a producer company. So this is how the structure comes. And as Elaben always said, that the structure of Seva should be a decentralized model. We don't want that it runs from one center. It is a decentralized structure, and we want that each state should have their own autonomy. But what ties us all together is the values, is the core, that we are all working for one purpose, and that is we as Jyoti Bhen also said, we are Seva. So we all consider ourselves as Seva, and we are all contributing, or basically just we are behind our women workers and just walking along with them. And if I may talk about the future of Seva Bharat, it's again expanding the Seva movement to as many as states we can, to organize as many as women workers we can. And lastly, the values, because my sisters here, even Jyoti Ben said that when we are seeing ourselves for the next 50 years, obviously we will have a lot of younger generation come in. So it's important that they all tie to the Seva values, which came from 1972, and we are here till date. So it's important that it's passed on to the coming generation for next 50 years. So that's why we, within the organization, be it Seva Bharat, be it Seva, we have curated programs like Seva Ethos. That's what we are doing in Seva Bharat, where we are telling people what Seva is, what are the core values. So ultimately, we may be different structures, but we are all one, working for the women workers in the informal economy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So now we'll couple of minutes, and then I'll take a minute, and then we'll.
I won't take much time at all, but I really want to express my gratitude to Srivastav ji, Shyam Saran ji, and Shubhra ji, and the entire IIC team for inviting us here to share our journey of 50 years and the next 50 years. Thank you, Beena ji. Without your chairing the session, it wouldn't have made such a huge difference, and made it more interactive and lively. And thank you for all your time and effort, and thank you, dear supporters and friends who took out all the time this morning. I know we overshot, and that is our biggest weakness, that we want to share so much. Still, my colleague is saying, I do want to say. So so that is what it is, that everybody has their own struggles, and how they have overcome, and everybody would want to share. So I really wanted to thank you so much. We always end with a song, so you finish, and then
Just take 1 minute, just 1 minute. See, one area I would like, I do not know whether you've already focused, is this old age homes. I was thinking that earlier that it is urban phenomena, but it has become really rural phenomena as well. So I would like the Seva should really concentrate on this, because here the real Seva is required.
There are many more projects. So, well, I'll just say a global thanks to everybody. Of course, to IIC, because IIC is one of those spaces which is a bit like Chatham House. You can say what you want, it won't go out, but nevertheless, it's still recorded, so it could go out. I think it's always refreshing when people want to speak, because typically you have to tell women, "Thoda sa to bol do." And when people say no, there's a space where we would like to speak, and we have to say, "Time come here." So that's a wonderful reversal. So what have we learned today? We've learned what we reheard, what we already know, but we've seen it in granular form: organize, organize, organize. And in the diversity of ways where you didn't think people could come together, Seva has brought them together. I think this is the important thing. In a formal sector, in a city, in a factory, you can organize people, but here you have, such a diversity. How do you bring them together? And the question of values is extremely important. I think more and more and more outside Seva, we need to learn that. With so much disharmony, how do we actually bring harmony? I have this coined thing I say that we should have at least strategic sisterhood, if not romantic sisterhood. And strategic sisterhood could work. We don't have to agree with each other, but we have the same kind of goal of empowerment, and I think that's very important. And I would just add that, and for the policymakers who might have heard or may hear this, that don't only talk about skills, which is what we hear from the government. Let's also talk about assets. The difference between a wage worker and a person who's an entrepreneur, be it in the rural or urban, farm or non-farm sector, is that women need to own assets. This asset could be a plot of land, it could be a thela that you take for a vegetable vendor, it could be an e-rickshaw or an e-vehicle. All of these are assets. And let's bring that back into the conversation. I'm saying this because almost every discussion you see in newspapers and elsewhere is, why is women's labor force participation so low? Partly because, of course, they don't capture the diversity of women's work. They don't capture their work, unpaid work. But also because, for some reason, we talk about women being labor and men being capital. So we are concerned about labor force participation, but we are not concerned about the inequality of ownership of wealth and assets. So I'd like to, Reena Ben, let's, you of course talk about it, but let's talk about this more in policy forums. And of course, the biggest challenge, the two challenges we face, which will come about, one is about climate change. Can you imagine being a vegetable vendor and you have to go out in the heat wave and your vegetables will not survive because it's a perishable product? Your customers will not come. You'll be completely devastated by the heat and you go home and your homes are not cooled. So I think that image always devastates me when I think about it, that there's this whole new challenge. We're all friends of Seva, so please keep including us. And thank you all, and we'll end with a song.
Hum honge kamyab, you all can join us. And then our sisters will sing in Kashmiri and in Ladakhi as well. Hum honge kamyab.
होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे
कामयाब एक दिन। हो मन में है विश्वास, पूरा है विश्वास, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन।
कश्मीरी में गाओ। जल्दी करो।
Ngati ton gundubin, ngati ton gundubin, ngati ton gundubin jakshi. Oh simla ichhe zang ala revara, ngati ton gundubin jakshi.
Let's get so kamyab,
let's get so kamyab, let's get so kamyab ek ho. Manchurians, let's get so kamyab ek do. Let's get so kamyab ek do.
सब
एक है,
हम सब
एक है,
हम सब
एक है,
हम सब
एक है.
Thank you, Reema Ben, Professor Bina Agrawal, and a very big thanks to Seva Sisters. Bina, Reema ji, your words of wisdom was music to the ears. And the Seva Sisters transported us to the landscapes where they are executing these activities, and that's seems like, treat to the eyes. May I request now, Meena Agrawal ji, the Honorary Treasurer of IIC, to present a token of appreciation of deep sense of gratitude to Reema Ben and to Professor Agrawal. Thank you. Thanks to a big thank you to the Director IIC, Shri K.N. Srivastava for being with us this whole afternoon, morning and afternoon, and to Madam Agrawal for being with us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Seva Sisters also.